minute. Let me get started. Let me first quickly share my screen, and from there on, we can be able to proceed further. Okay, hope that my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, it is visible.
Sure, thank you. Okay, so just before half an hour, okay, we were able to understand what is a DApp, a decentralized application, right? What is Ethereum? What is its significance in creating a decentralized application? And then we were able to get to know the other parameters also. So like this, what did we do is we have understood all the scenarios, okay? And then we were able to look into multiple other applications of the blockchain technology, like where we have able to see the loan management process, stock trading, agriculture sector, right? Online identity, food traceability, and drug traceability, healthcare sector. We have seen a lot of case studies with regards to decentralized application, DApp. And then I have also given you around, let me say, top 10 dApps where you can always be able to refer to. And then we understood Web 3.0, Web 2.0, Web 1.0, and how Web 3.0 is important, because everything here will be like a decentralized application where you will make everything distributed model. Okay, and then you see the gas. Okay, the gas is something like, without this you cannot be able to go ahead and try to deploy your smart contract, because ethers are mandatory. Based on the size of the code, you will be able to deploy your smart contract, for which some amount of gas fee will be deducted. And then we looked into EVM, which is a Ethereum virtual machine, where it will help a smart contract to deploy it into the Ethereum blockchain successfully, due to which EVM is said to be important for us. And then we go to a DApp. DApp, as I said, like where it will have a backend as your Solidity code, and then your front end is your React and Angular, which we can be able to use it. And then the loan management smart contract. And then even in a smart contract, I've given a clarity to all of you that how you can be able to use all the rules within it. Okay. So in a smart contract, you can define your own rules and you can understand. So very first thing is you should know the business problem, and then you should know who all should be in the network, who are all the parties who should be involved, and then the prerequisites, and then passing the event whenever you want to trigger it. And then finally, when the smart contract gets triggered, what will be the business logic implied to? Okay. So those are also the things which we should be able to understand with respect to smart contract. And then Solidity is the programming language which we use in order to develop these smart contracts. And then these are all are the understandings. Vitalik Buterin is the founder of Ethereum, and there are common points between Bitcoin and Ethereum is the blockchain technology, and the differences between, if you want to understand, Bitcoin doesn't have the capability to create a DApp, a decentralized application, whereas your Ethereum has full capability to create a decentralized application. Okay. So yeah, these are all are the things which we were able to complete as part of our previous session. So now what I'm going to do here is, now you should be able to be aware with regards to practicality of it. Like if I want to go and implement practically, what are all the things I have to consider and how I should be able to proceed further. Okay. So these are some points which we will be able to understand right now. So let's go and try to get to know all of those things. So as per the schedule, I see that there are some tools. If you can see on the schedule, right, you have the Truffle, you have Ganesh, Okay, so these are the tools which we have to use, and we need to deploy any of the smart contract into the test net. Now, a simple question to all of you: why test network? Can't I be able to do it in the main network? Why am I getting limited to test network? Any thoughts from anyone? Can anyone answer it? Like, why we should be able to do it in the test network rather than doing it in the main network? Any thoughts from anyone who have joined my morning session? Anybody? Why I should do it in the test network? Yes, 100% right answer. Good job, everyone. Because as you all know that if you want to do it in the main network or you do it in the test network, wherever the network is, ultimately you have to pay gas fee, which is nothing but ethers. But the only advantage here is if I go and try to do it in the test network, I can get fake ethers. That means test ethers, I can say, which will not be useful anywhere. But for deploying the code, those ethers will be helpful for us. Those are just the test ethers. Why am I not able to do it in the main network? As many of you have answered it appropriately, that I cannot be able to do it in the main network. The only reason is because, okay, that I don't have real ethers. If I have real ethers, I will do it in the main network. Okay, as I have only test ethers, I will be doing it in the test network. That is the difference, what you all should be able to understand. Okay, so now what I would just be able to explain to you is, in this session, the agenda will be, I'll be able to let you know what we will do, and then accordingly, we all can be able to proceed further. Okay, so here, as per the schedule, what I understand in this case is, first, we will understand what is a truffle. Okay, what is a truffle framework, what exactly is this, and what is that we are going to do within it. And then we will take a e-commerce, a mini application. Okay, and we will be able to create a dApp for it, and then we will explore the Ganache tool. Like, what is this Ganache? Basically, this Ganache acts as a test network. How, what are its important things? I'll let you know. So these are the three areas. And this e-commerce application ultimately will have three things. Okay, one, you are going to develop the code and I will make you understand it. Then we will go and try to compile the code, and then finally we will be able to deploy the code. These are the topics which we will be able to take it up in the current session. Okay, this will be the agenda. Let's go ahead and try to cover one by one everything, and then you will be getting a practical exposure along with the theoretical part, whatever we discussed in the morning session. Okay, so let's get started and try to do the things within it, and accordingly, you will be able to get to know everything. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, okay, so all of these are required for a decentralized application. How many of you know what is Remix IDE? Are you all aware of what is Remix IDE? REMIX, Remix IDE, Integrated Development Environment. Any thoughts? Any idea? If it's no, then I will let you know, because accordingly I have to explain you all. Okay, most of you I think are aware of it. Yeah, okay. Y'all did it yesterday? Perfect. Then that is awesome. Okay. Good. Then that indicates that you'll have some exposure towards that tool, right? If you see here, this is your Remix IDE. Okay, I'm not gonna go anything and do over here, but just I'm letting you know, because if you know Remix IDE, more or less you will be little bit familiar with it. That's my intent behind it. So now, if you see over here, okay, Remix IDE is a tool where you can develop your Solidity code, You can compile and you can deploy. Maybe as many of you said yesterday, it's been done. So you would have got some exposure that how to develop a Solidity code, how to compile it, and then accordingly, how to deploy it. Right? So that's how you can be able to achieve that. Okay? Like where you can be able to go ahead and then try to achieve this phenomena. Okay. So now the thing is, all of you would have used Remix IDE as an ID, as an integrated development environment tool, where we were able to do everything within it. In the same way, okay, in the same way, we also have a truffle framework. Okay, in the same way, we also have a truffle framework. There are two ways in which you can do it. One is yesterday, as we have learned, using the Remix IDE is one way. Another one is using the truffle framework. So you can also be able to do the things within the truffle framework also. Okay, this is also like your IDE only, like where you will be able to develop your code, compile, and as well as deploy the code. Okay, more or less, again, this is also the same as what we discussed with regards to Remix IDE. Nothing different over here. Okay, now let me give you an understanding of what is a truffle. So in order to get to know more about it, so let me try to go and say here, that is truffle. Okay, so I would just say here truffle suit. Okay, so in this case, now here in this case, if you see the truffle suit, right? Okay, so now here in this case, so this is, if you see here in this case, right? So this is used for the smart contract development. Okay, so whatever the truffle which is here, it's, see, this is the trufflesuit.com is the site, like where all the truffle details and everything you can be able to find out. Okay, anything related to truffle, if you want to be aware of, you have a trufflesuit.com where you have everything very clearly available, where you can just go through and explore this in a much better way. But what I'm saying you is how you have your Remix IDE as a platform to develop your smart contracts. In the same way, you also have a truffle as another IDE where you can develop your smart contract, compile, and as well as deploy the same smart contract. That's how basically truffle plays a very vital role in the process. Okay, so now again, this is all about your truffle site where you can go and understand what they are trying to do. Okay, you can do end-to-end development here. You can debug the code appropriately. It's very quick and it also works with Ethereum successfully. And then you can also be able to use it for UI UX also. Like what I'm saying is ultimately it's a very good. Okay, and then you also have a documentation. Okay, so where it mentions you every detail about what it is trying to do. If you want to implement truffle in the Visual Studio Code, Drizzle, Ganesh, truffle, like all of them, documentation and everything is available for you. See, it gives the services for Ethereum blockchain, for Hyperledger blockchain, for a Quorum. Quorum is a private blockchain of Ethereum. It works for Tezos, it works for Filecoin. Okay, so it is giving the services to these things, and if you want to read any documentation, select that blockchain. See, with regards to Ethereum, everything is available over here, starting from first. See, now, yesterday, if you remember, when you would have written the code in the Remix IDE, right? Did you install anything? As far as I know, nothing. You just went to the browser, any browser it may be, and you have gone to that remix.ethereum.org, which will open you this Remix IDE platform. For this, you did not install anything, neither you were being asked to install anything also, because it's a directly a browser-based tool where you can go ahead and get started by developing the contracts, the smart contract, I intend to say. Now, whereas in the Truffle, that's not the case. As Truffle also works in the same way as Remix IDE, but in Truffle, you have to first make sure that your Truffle is installed. Without the Truffle being installed, you cannot be able to proceed further. So the very first step, what all of you should need to consider is you need to install the truffle. So in order to install the truffle, okay, here there is installation instructions. Let's go. And if you see, okay, this is the command npm install -g truffle. Okay, it says npm install -g truffle. -g means it's a global. Globally, you need to install the truffle. So npm means node packet manager, which is one of the major dependency for the truffle. Install -g, that is globally you have to install the truffle over here, where you can copy this command and you can run it directly in your command prompt. But before that, I think it will throw the error for you. Okay, the reason is why? Because if npm is not installed by default, then it will say it is not recognized. Due to which, what happened over here, see, they have given some prerequisites. See, in this case, to install, you have to to install the truffle, you have to first have this. You have to install the latest version of npm node packet manager. To do that, you can say npm -g globally, and then your node packet manager, whatever you have installed, right? Then you need to install your node.js. Now, how you can install the node.js? Simply, you can go here, say node.js installation. Okay, so if you see here, download the node.js, let me click on it. And the moment you click on download node.js, right, it will redirect you to your system. If you are a Windows user, if it is 32-bit or a 64-bit, you have to download it. If you are a Mac user or a Linux or a Ubuntu user, accordingly, you can be able to click on it and node.js will automatically be installed in your system. Okay, node.js this is the way for you to install the node.js. So what I'm trying to say you is, just because the command is provided here to install the truffle, if you take this, it will not work for you because there are some dependencies before you install the truffle. Now, those dependencies are, if you see at the top here, first you should have the npm, for which you need to run this particular command where it will install npm. But by just running npm will not be helpful for us. You also need to install the node.js. Okay, so now to get this node.js, okay, one is here version 14 to version 18 is present. Otherwise, you go here and download it automatically. Okay, that is the first step. And then what it is saying, use nvm to install a compatible version of node.js. So you can say nvm install 18. Okay, where it will be helpful for you to make sure that it is compatible to node.js version, and then you can be able to proceed further. So in order to install the truffle, install first the node.js, make sure that you're running npm, and then finally you can say nvm install 18. Okay, let me say if this is not working by any chance, then you can say here npm installation. Okay, npm install. So here the document is there. So you can also be able to refer to this corresponding document and try to get to know. Okay, so if you want, see npm install -g globally npm. Okay, so you can also install npm. So the prerequisites are, if you want to install the truffle, okay, let me just drag this one a little bit down. Yeah. So if I want to install my truffle, okay, you need what? You have to make sure that your node.js is first installed, your npm is also installed, and then you have to make sure that nvm is stick to version 18, because this is compatible to node.js. Once these three are achieved, then you run the command npm install globally your truffle. Otherwise, your truffle will not work. As in the command, as you have your node packet manager, due to which you need these dependencies node.js, npm, and nvm 18. Then only it will make you install your truffle. Otherwise, we cannot be able to proceed further. Okay. So that is the understanding what we all should actually be able to correlate over here. Okay. So now here in this case, if you see right overall, see this is where you can be able to install your node packet manager. And here is the document very clearly been written about the process. Okay. You can run your npm. Okay. I have shown you how to download the node.js. And then you can install your nvm node version manager, and then you can finally check your node version. Okay. And after that, come to npm install -g truffle, where you can globally install your truffle. Finally, check the truffle version. So now if I go, as I'm using Windows system, in the Linux, you can go with your terminal. In the Mac also, you can go to your terminal. So now I'll say cmd, the command prompt. Okay. So here, let me check truffle space version. And if I click on it, see, I have a truffle. Now these things are there with me. I have a truffle of version 5.7.9. That is a prime importance. And then your node version, because truffle and node are interrelated. Whatever Ganesh, Solidity, Web3 is showing, you can ignore that. What you have to consider here is the truffle version is visible. That means my truffle is available in the system. And then my node is available. That means my node is also available in the system without any issues. That's how you can make sure that first your truffle is available. So it's not as easy as your Remix IDE, where you open the browser and just go to the remix.ethereum.org, right? It's not like that. Here, what will happen is you have to explicitly first, before installing the truffle, Node.js, Node Packet Manager has to be installed. And then you need to say nvm install 18. And if you wish, you can check the node version also. But if you don't want also, that's okay, because the reason is when you install the truffle successfully, then in the truffle version, when you run in your command prompt, automatically it's gonna let you know with what version your node is also there. Your node means Node.js version along with your truffle version. Both of them will be visible for you over here very clearly. So that's another point which we all should be able to consider. Okay. So this is the clarity we all should actually be able to maintain over here, where we can go with the truffle version. Okay. So this is the first tool which we were able to discuss. If you remember, this is the first tool as part of this. That's a truffle framework. Now I know that you may be having a question that how to develop, how to use the tool, what are all the things I have to do, that I will explain to you. Okay. For the time being, we are understanding the tool level. What is the tool? What does it do? What is its installation procedures? That is what is our understanding right now. First, we will try to get to know those things, and then we will accordingly move on to the next part of it. So now if you see e-commerce application, this is anyhow a code part, which I will take you to a little bit later. Next comes the Ganesh, which is the last two. So talking about Ganesh, right? Now, what exactly here is a Ganesh? So when I refer to Ganesh, Ganesh is basically a test network. Okay, Ganesh is a test network blockchain. Ganesh is actually a truffle product only. Okay, Ganesh, G-A-N-A-C-H-E, whatever I'm trying to refer over here, right? This is actually the, whatever the Ganesh is available here, this is a test blockchain, like where you can be able to see whatever you want to do. For example, let me take you to Ganesh only. Okay, so let's go to the Ganesh blockchain. Okay, see, let me click on enter. Now, if you see, it is a Ganesh truffle suit. That means what I'm saying you is Ganesh is a truffle product, due to which we're talking about the Ganesh. As it is a truffle product, and is it is it can collaborate appropriately with the truffle blockchain. So I'm talking with regards to Ganesh truffle suit. The moment you open your Ganesh truffle suit, right, you have an option immediately here to download it. If you are using a Windows operating system, you can download it for Windows. If you're using Mac, you will download it for Mac, or if it is Ubuntu, you'll download it for Ubuntu. That's up to you. Like whatever is an operating system, accordingly, you can actually be able to download it. So the moment you click on the download option, you can just be able to simply download it, and then we can be able to proceed further. That is generally the process what we can be able to follow. So now what I'm trying to say over here is, as you are seeing in this case, the moment I click on download, see the file is getting downloaded at the bottom. I'll pause it because I already have it. So once this file is downloaded, right, you can click on this file, say next, and you can say install. Automatically, the Ganache will be installed in your system. It's a very, very simple installation. The moment you click on the download option, once the file gets downloaded, you can just click on this file and say next, and then finally say install. After installing, you know how it will look like. I'll try to show you that part over here. Okay. So you can go to your search bar and say Ganache. Okay. So this is how it will look. The moment you have downloaded your file successfully, and if you have installed it appropriately, then you will see that your Ganache application will be available for you. Okay. So whatever the Ganache application is required, it will look like this, and try to open this. The moment I click on it, it will try to open me the Ganache application, and then I will explain what are all the things which are within it. Now, this is my Ganache blockchain. If you see here, this is the corresponding the Ganache blockchain which is available for me. So here, if you see, there is one is a quick start option, another one is a new workspace. So I can be able to create a new workspace if I wish, or else I can go with a quick start also. So when I say quick start, right, that means it is like getting started directly. So let me say if I click on quick start, you can also be able to say quick start only. So the moment you click on quick start, what is going to happen here is, so I will show you the moment it is up, it will show me some default parameters, which I will give you a proper understanding that what exactly those are, so that all of you will be able to get some idea. So if you see here, this is a Ganache tool. Okay, if you see on my system very clearly, this is what is your Ganache tool, which is available for us. Okay, so in this tool, if you observe carefully, first of all, you have around 10 accounts available here. In this case, if you see, right, these are actually your 10 accounts which are available for you. Okay, so now if you see here in this case, okay, so whatever the 10 accounts which are available for you, these are all are your fake accounts. Okay, this 10 accounts which you can see in the Ganache platform are all are your fake accounts with 100 ether each. If you observe over here, the balance in this case is 100 ethers. Now, do you think these are real ethers? No, these are all are the fake ethers. That is the reason we are doing it in the test network rather than doing it in the main network. Because in the main network, you need the main ethers. In the test network, these are test ethers, which is not useful for anything, only for deploying your code. That's it. Okay, in this way, you got some 10 default fake accounts with every account having 100 ether each. And these are your public key, whatever address you are seeing, right? Okay, the one which is towards the left hand side, these are all are your public keys, which can be shared with anyone, because that is the reference for your address which is available over here. Okay, and if you want to see, this is a public key, and as you know, private key cannot be shared with anyone. But if you want to see the private key, see here, there is a small key option available. If you click on that key, it will let you know to this corresponding public key what is the private key. This private key should not be shared with anyone. You should be able to store along with you. I also should not share this. But the only reason, as it is a test network, we are able to understand it. But in real time, you should not be able to show the share the private key with anyone. Okay, so this is how there are fake accounts being created, and for which there is a corresponding public key, And if you click on that key option, you also have the private key available for it. Okay. So these are the things what you all should be able to first consider. Okay. And this is how the Ganache basically looks like, the interface of it. Now starting from the top, these are your accounts, like 10 fake accounts with 100 ether each. So here, these are your accounts. Now, if I go to blocks, basically there are no blocks available. Why? Because this is the default block. I did not deploy anything. Until and unless you don't deploy, you cannot be able to see the blocks over here. So due to which there are no blocks available as of now, which is empty. And if I click on transactions, there are also no transactions available. The maximum gas price for the Ganache, the maximum gas limit which is available for Ganache, after which it will not work. If anybody wants to connect to Ganache, the network ID is 5777. Okay, if you want to make this Ganache work, or if you want to, let me say from your remix, if you want to connect to Ganache, or from anywhere in the world, if you want to connect to Ganache, okay, you can move with RPC server. Okay, HTTP 127.0.0.1 and the port number is 7545. Okay. See, as the truffle is the, like as Ganache is the truffle product, right? So truffle and Ganache, they're automatically linked. You don't need to manually link anything with them. Okay, so as Ganache is a truffle product, they themselves will manually be linked, so we don't need to worry about. But if any other platform, if they want to connect to Ganache, then this RPC server will play a very vital role. Now, just for an example, if I go to my Remix IDE, I have some random Remix IDE. Okay, so I'll go to deploy directly. Okay, there is a deploy option. Let me select what here there is a dev Ganache provider. So many options are there in the deployment, that in the environment, when you click on the drop down, right? See, there is a dev Ganache provider. If I click on it, it asks me, give me the endpoint. Now, from where will I get the endpoint? Here is the endpoint. See, everything is same. It's http://127.0.0.1. Port number is 7545. Let's check it out here. http://127.0.0.1. And here you have to put just instead of 8, 7545. And then say OK. Automatically see the network ID is visible for you. That is 5777, which is nothing but your Ganache network ID. And if you go to your accounts at the start, see all the account addresses also migrated. See 7FA-D83. If you see here, 7FA-D83, all of them, they got migrated. So why am I showing you this? Is I'm just letting you know that how you can be able to connect your Ganache with multiple platforms. So in the remix only, if you go to the deployment and say dev Ganache provider, you can be able to do this operation. Just you have to make sure that, okay, only thing what you have to be able to make sure over here is you should actually be able to have a Ganache installed in your system. Your Ganache is not installed, and if you go to deployment and say dev Ganache provider, then it will not connect because Ganache is not there in your system. And sometimes what happens is, even though Ganache is there in your system, you installed it successfully, but you didn't open it, then also it will not connect. You have to make sure that your Ganache is open and it is running successfully at the back end. Then only it can be able to connect. So that is the reason where we will have RPC server also very, very important for any of the external platforms to connect to your Ganache. But for Truffle, you don't require it because, as you know, Ganache is actually a product of Truffle only. So we don't need to bother about it much. So this is your Ganache platform where you will have fake ethers to make sure that your deployment in the Truffle happens successfully. Okay. So that is the understanding which we all should actually be able to have it. Okay. So Ganache, as I said, is a test blockchain where you will get around test ethers also. Like how much? 100 ether each is what you're going to get it for each account. Okay. So these are our tools which we should be aware of. For truffle, you have to make sure the first step is you need to install the Node.js. Second step is you should install the npm. Third step is you should use nvm 18. Then you install the truffle. Okay, it's like 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then final one, fifth one is truffle version. That's it. These are the steps. So what I can do is I can also be able to share these links to you all. In that case, you may not face any difficulties at all. If you want to do later at any point of time, you can also practice it. So let me share these URLs one by one. Okay, one is I've sent it. And if you want to download your npm, so I've also shared the same. And then your Node.js also, if you want to download it, I've also shared the same. Okay, so that you all can be able to refer to it whenever you require. Somebody in the chat box have asked me to explain one more time the steps installation sequence. Prasad, I've just shown you right now with the numbers over here. Okay, one is the Node.js, another one is install npm and then use nvm 18, and then fourth step is install the truffle. Fifth step is to check the version of the truffle. Those are the installation sequence. After this is done successfully, then immediately install the Ganache, for which you can go to Ganache Truffle Suite. Just click on the download option. That's it. Once the file is downloaded, you can just say next, next, install. Automatically, the Ganache will be there in your system, and you can go to search and open your Ganache application. Okay. Whatever Ganache application you require, you can be able to open the same. Okay. That is the process behind it. Mahesh, yes, it is same as like Remix, as I said, right? How Remix is an integrated development environment. In the same way, you can also be able to use the Truffle and can be able to develop the application on top of the Truffle also. Comparison version suitability. See, the version suitability is 16. Node.js 16 version is actually appropriate. Anything higher, we may face the compatibility issue. Only reason why there is a compatibility issue is sometimes Node.js is a separate community. Truffle is a separate community. Now, there is no guarantee that both of them will be keeping on developing the things at the same time, right? So Truffle will be able to install, or they will be able to like create some new things. Then only the version change will happen. Now, what happens Node.js when we download it, right? By default, it will be able to take the latest version, and that latest version will not be compatible to the older version of whatever the Truffle is there. This is one challenge which generally happens. Okay. So in order to eradicate this, then Truffle also should automatically be able to update, and it also should be able to go ahead and make sure that the dependencies which are available in the Node.js are reduced as quickly as possible, so that the developers will not be able to face any issues. That is the only possibility what we can be able to do, Padma. All of these are open source. Okay, good question. All of these are the open source. You don't need to pay anything for any such things. Okay, Ganache is open source, Truffle is open source. Okay, Node.js is open source, npm is open source. All of them are open source. Nothing has to be paid. So happily you can be able to do, no licenses, no such issues are required here. Okay, and one final tool is, okay, to develop the code, because Truffle is just a framework. Okay, that is not a IDE. Truffle is a framework, a development framework it is, where it will create a framework for you. But where will you do a development? For the Solidity, you have your Remix IDE. For Truffle, we will use Visual Studio Code. Okay. For Truffle, we will be using the Visual Studio Code, where it will act as a code editor, and within this Visual Studio Code, we will be writing the code whatever we require. That is Solidity code, right? We will be doing it within the Visual Studio Code. Okay. this is the code editor platform which we will use. Okay, so Truffle is a framework. Okay, so in the Visual Studio Code, we will get started by using the Truffle framework. So this is also another tool which you need to download. Okay, this is also another tool which we should be able to take it up into consideration. So now what I'm going to do over here is I'll show you how to download the Visual Studio Code also. Okay. So the moment you enter into it, here there is an option to download. Okay. So just you click on download over here, or otherwise you have an options. Like if you see, if you are a Windows user or a Mac user or an Ubuntu or a Linux user, you can download it accordingly. But yeah, there is an option here to download. Let me also share you this. It's like a Remix IDE, like how you have a Remix IDE as an integrated development environment. In the same way, we can also be able to use the Visual Studio Code, where you can be able to download this Visual Studio Code and you can use it as an IDE platform where you can develop your code, compile your code, and then you can also deploy your code. Okay. So that's how you can also be able to use your Visual Studio Code. So the overall tools, what we actually require in this case is, first, you have to make sure Truffle is installed successfully. To install Truffle, the dependencies are Node.js, first, npm, and make sure that nvm is having version 18. All of these steps are shared in the links. Okay, I've shared the links in the chat box, so you can get all the commands over here. Second thing, then I've shown you how to install the Ganache, which is a test native, or you can say where you'll have test ethers available over here for deploying the smart contract. Okay. Finally, I have said about the Visual Studio Code, which I just now explained as an IDE, integrated development environment, where you will be developing the code and then you will be able to compile the code, and then finally you are going to deploy the code. Okay. These are the three things which we were able to discuss till now. Okay, that is about the Truffle framework, Ganache, and then the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so these are the three things what we all should actually be able to consider in order to proceed further. Okay, hope that this is clear to all of you. So where we can actually be able to use the Truffle, Ganache, and then the Visual Studio Code. These are the tools. So that, why am I trying to emphasize it one more time is because you all should be able to know what are all the things which we should have in order to get started. Maybe in future also, if you want to do, at least this will be helpful for all of you, where without these things you cannot be able to proceed and get started anything with the Truffle framework. So please don't have a misconception that many of you may think that Truffle itself is an IDE tool. No, Truffle is just a framework. That is not at all an IDE tool. IDE tool in the Truffle framework is your Visual Studio Code, like how we have the Remix IDE. Okay. So now what I will do is observe carefully. First, I will explain to you practically now how we can implement the things. As we are very much familiar right now with the tools, what is available for us. So let's get started with the process, like how we need to do the things within the Truffle, how to create a framework, how to write the code, that is to develop the code, how to compile it, how to migrate or deploy it. Okay, how the code is getting deployed into the blockchain. All of these details we should be able to get a clarity right now. Okay, let me get started with that process, and then accordingly you all can actually be able to understand. Okay, so let me go one by one. First of all, what I will do is, let me open my command prompt again. Okay, CMD. So in my command prompt, okay, if I check first my prerequisites, whether my node is there or not. Okay, see, my node version is there. If I say node -v, my node version is there. And I was also able to check my truffle version because I don't want to take any risk. If it is not there, then that will create an issue. So my truffle is also there. So now what I'll do is I'll make a directory. Okay, mkdir, I'll make a directory. Mkdir means make a directory in short. So Linux command mkdir means make a directory. I will say make a directory called as online cart. Okay, I want to create a directory that is mkdir where it will create a directory called as online cart. Directory means folder. Directory is nothing but it is not in the Linux words, it's a directory, but in general, it is a folder which will be created for me called as online cart. So the moment I say enter, this online cart is created successfully. I was able to create my directory called as online. That's it. What you have to do in the command prompt is first you need to check your node version. If it is available, that's awesome because that is one of the prerequisite. And then go with the truffle version and check whether the truffle is available or not. If you see the version, that means truffle is also available for us. Then I was able to create a directory. Okay, saying it as a make a directory called as an online cart. So I was also able to go ahead and try to create a directory specifically called as online cart over here. Okay. So now once my online cart is created successfully, okay, once my directory that is online cart is created successfully, now what is that the next steps I have to do it? So the next steps here are I will go to my Visual Studio Code where I need to go ahead and try to develop my code. So let me open my Visual Studio Code. Okay. So in my Visual Studio Code, the moment you open it, okay, so whatever may come, you ignore it. That's okay. Either it may not look same as what you see on my screen for you, the Visual Studio Code, but that's absolutely fine. Okay, so what you have to do the moment the Visual Studio Code is present in your system, immediately towards the top, like towards the top, right at the top, extreme top, you see file option there. Okay, if you see there is a file option towards the extreme top left hand side corner. So if you go to file, there is an option called as open folder. Okay, there is an option called as open folder. Open the folder, go to C drive because that's where it is there. In the C drive, I have my users and then I have my name. And here is where my online cart I created, a folder, a directory also you can call it as. Here is my online cart, select it and say, select the folder. Now see here online cart is selected. Okay, my folder is created and it is present over here. Okay, what I'm saying is in my command prompt, okay, if I went to my command prompt, here I said, see the path, C drive users, my name. Here is where I created a directory online cart. Now, if you ask me, shall I only create in this way only or else in any of the path I can create? You can create wherever you want. I don't have any restriction. As long as you remember that path and as long as you can remove that, like you can use that folder, I don't have any concerns at all. Okay, that's what I want to intend to let you know. So what I'm saying over here is the moment you're gonna go ahead and say mkdir, make a directory online cart, so that directory is created. I go to the Visual Studio Code editor. I go to the file at the top towards the left hand side, and then I will say open folder. Now this folder, now I'll go to the path that is my C drive, and then my path wherever it has been available that direct users, my name, and then here I was able to create a directory online cart. Let's just check if it is available. Okay, online cart is there. So I selected this folder and here is my online cart available for me. Okay, so now what happens is you are done with till here. Okay, now I want to go ahead and do one thing here. Okay, what is that? First of all, now whatever I'm doing, right, I am trying to create a project. Whatever I'm trying to do right now is to create a project. Okay, in that process, what I'm trying to do till now, I was able to open my Visual Studio Code. From the file, I was able to open the editor, which I like folder, which I created as online cart. Okay, I was able to open that. Now, what I want to do here, very, very important is I need to open a command prompt. Okay, I know that when I say command prompt, immediately you will say me, okay, go to Windows search bar and open the CMD over here, command prompt. But this is what I don't want. What I want is I'll go to Visual Studio Code over here. If you see at the top, file, edit, selection, view, go, run, here is the terminal. If you see at the top, very clearly, there is a terminal option being available over here for you. The moment I click on terminal and I will say new terminal, see, at the bottom, a new terminal is created for us. Okay. What I'm saying is this Visual Studio Code editor can be used as one single platform where you can develop, where you can deploy, where you can be able to compile your code. And on top of that, you can also use the terminal and can execute the commands, whatever you require. That is the reason this is very famous, the Visual Studio Code editor, where you can do everything at one go. So that is the reason when you want to open a terminal, just here at the top, you have a terminal option, say new terminal, that will allow you to help you to open the terminal. So now what I want to do here is I want to initialize my truffle. Okay. This is the command. I want to initialize my truffle. Without initializing a truffle, you cannot be able to proceed further. So when I say I have to initialize my truffle, init means initialization. Okay. So now when I say I want to initialize my truffle, I have to explicitly go ahead and try to say what is that I wanted. Truffle means what? It is a framework. Now you will see what framework will get created. So when I go and in this terminal, I will say truffle init. Okay. The moment I click on enter, observe what is going to happen. Now this is going to initialize my truffle. See, after my truffle got initialized successfully, you got this as a framework. You got the contracts folder. You got the migrations folder. I'll make you understand what is migrations and all. You got a test folder. You got a configuration file. So what happened over here is the moment I said truffle init, right? That means I was able to go ahead and initialize my truffle successfully. The moment my truffle was initialized successfully, right? I was able to see all these framework. That means you don't need to get started from scratch. Truffle says as a development environment, I will be able to give you a framework and you get started and do the things, everything within it. And that's what has happened with the command truffle init. Truffle init is nothing but it has initialized the truffle where you were able to get all of these folders which are being highlighted over here. Okay. Once these folders are being present appropriately, we were able to go ahead and try to complete the rest of the other part also. Okay. So that is the significance of the truffle init command. The moment you said truffle init, that is truffle initialization, immediately it was able to go ahead and create a framework, that is contracts, migrations, and then the test folder. And then finally, you also have your config file, that is a configuration file. Okay. So this is the process. Okay. Till here, any questions or till here is everyone clear? Okay. So what are all the things which we were able to do is we just were and created a project. Okay. The command prompt, we said mkdir, make a directory, the file name online cart. Okay. And then I went ahead and opened the folder, the file. I went and opened the folder over here, wherever my directory was present. And then I went to terminal. I said new terminal. And then I said here the command is truffle space init, truffle init. Let me also share that command over here. Okay, to initialize the truffle. And then you can be able to make sure that whatever the truffle is present, once it gets initialized, right, you will see the framework like this: contract, migration, test, and config file. Before that, it was only the online cart which was empty. Okay, and if you want to go and create a folder, as the request came to ask to say me that, can you please show it one more time after creation of the folder? Yeah. So go to the command prompt, CMD, you can say in your search. Within the command prompt, you just need to say mkdir, make a directory, okay, online cart. That's the one. So what I'll do here is, let me take a notepad. Okay, first step in this case here is make a directory, online cart. After that, once it is done, go to Visual Studio Code Editor. Okay, then select the folder. Okay, you can select the folder that is online cart. Okay, after that, open the terminal in the, you have to open the terminal in the Visual Studio Code itself. Okay, and after doing this, you have to execute the command truffle init. Okay, it will create the framework for us. This is what I was able to explain till now practically. Let me also share this over the chat box to all of you. At least you can put it handy and you can always refer whenever you need it. Okay, you can install any. So better you start with Node.js. Okay, not any order. Better we get started with first Node.js, then go with npm, and then go with the truffle. Whatever order you provided, Vijay, that is absolutely right. That's good approach to go in that way. Otherwise, it will create again dependencies, Vijay. Okay, so far so good. Or any questions? This is what we have done till now. Made a directory, went to the Visual Studio Code Editor. Where did we make a directory? In the command prompt. Okay. If you are having a different operating system, maybe in that case, you will be doing it in your terminal. Okay. You can go to the Visual Studio Code Editor and do it, and then select the folder which is your online cart. Okay, whatever you were able to create it, you can be able to do that. And then ultimately, you can open the terminal in the Visual Studio Code and then say truffle initialization. Then it's going to create a framework in this way, which you can be able to see on my screen. Okay. So this is something which you all should actually be able to have a clarity with. Okay. So now moving to next part. Okay. Here, I think restart is must once. Yeah, we can do that restart, Mahesh. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So basically, we can actually be able to do a restart of it. Okay. Yeah, in Visual Studio Code also. So wherever it asks for the restart, okay, you can actually be able to do it. Okay, you were doing it. So again, I explained it, Mahesh. Okay. Again, just now I've explained it. Probably you have understood what I said. Or anywhere, is there a gap? You got it? Okay. Perfect. So now what I will do next? Okay, as I am ready with my framework, what is the next step? The next step is I want to develop a smart contract. So here, first of all, there is a contract folder. Let me right click on this contract. Okay, in the contracts folder, you can right click on your contracts folder and then say new file. Okay, within the contracts folder, you can right click and say new file, and you can just say here cart.sol. .sol also you have to mandatorily put because that is your Solidity extension. Okay, it is your my contract. In that I was able to right click and say new file, and then I'm saying right now here as cart.sol, that is a Solidity extension. Okay, see, so now came the platform where I can write my code. So what I did, I went to my contract, right clicked on it, said a new file, and then the new file I named it as cart.sol. So now here, what I'm going to do in this case is, let me try to make sure I bring in the code and put it over here to all of you. So in this case, once this is done, immediately save your changes. Okay, Control S. So now what I'm going to do over here is observe carefully. So hopefully I am assuming that you all know how to write a Solidity code. Because if we get started with Solidity basics, then that will consume a lot of time. So I'm just assuming that you all have a good amount of Solidity basics, because anyhow, from here also you'll get to know the Solidity basics. But if you have some understanding with Solidity basics initially, then this will be much easier for you all to understand it. Okay. So if you see in my system, first one is the version. I am taking the range of versions of Solidity, starting from 0.4.22 to 0.9.0. Okay. So if you observe over here, these are basically the range of versions which are available, which you can take even the range of versions. See, I am taking from 0.4.22 to 0.9.0 till that versions I'm able to take it up. If you observe it. Okay. So if you observe, the next one is contract and the contract name. Okay. So you have over here, let me just try to reduce this one. Let me try to remove this. Yeah. If you see now, this is my contract and the contract name. So here what I'm doing is, this is an online cart. The program belongs to online cart where you will have seller and a buyer. Online cart means a seller will be selling the products in that online cart, and the buyer who is interested will be able to buy that product. Right? That is how basically it will work. There will be a seller and the buyer. So obviously what we will be able to do over here is, the seller will be selling the product and the buyer who is interested will be able to buy the product. So now we are putting a counter over here saying that a product count should get started with 1. Whatever the product is getting added by the seller into the online cart, it should get started with 1. And then you have a struct. Struct means it is a structure. So the structure name here is a product, so that whenever I'm going to sorry, I just got disconnected. Yeah. Okay, I just got disconnected. So let me just share my screen back once again. Okay. Okay, I was trying to refer to say this is my contract and then the contract name available for me. Okay. And then I want to get started with my product count from 1. And then here I want to define a struct, which is a product, so that whenever I'm calling the structure product, right, it should give me the product ID, the description of the product, the title of the product, and then who is actually the selling this product, the address of that product, okay, buyer address, whether it got delivered true or false, and then the price of the product. I need to get these details. So the moment I click on the product, it is gonna give me all of these parameters at one go, where I can see this. An unsigned integer, I hope you know the data type. If you see uint means it is unsigned integer. Unsigned integer means it will only take only the positive numbers. Unsigned integer will only be able to take the positive numbers. That's it. It will not be able to take any negative number at all. If it is an integer, then it will take both positive and negative. But if it is an unsigned integer, which you call it as uint, that will only consider the positive values. That's it. It will not take any negative values at all. Okay. And then you have your description as a string, title as a string, because these are all are your characters. And you see address. Here the seller address. I don't know how many of you are aware of a payable keyword. Payable means your smart contract by default does not have the capability to either transfer the money or to receive the money or to hold the money. That default function is given to wallets. Okay, but smart contract does not have that capability. So for that, what we are trying to do over here, okay, for that, what we are trying to do over here is payable. Payable means it will make sure that smart contract will accept the payments. Whenever you are using a keyword called as a payable, it will always make your smart contract to make sure that we are able to go ahead and try to accept the payment. Now, as a seller, okay, you are selling the product, you should accept the payment right from the buyer. So due to which we kept a payable keyword over here. If you are thinking that why we have not used for anywhere and why only in the line number 11, the reason being, seller when he's selling the product, right, automatically what is going to happen over here in this case is payable as a keyword will make sure that the seller can be able to accept the payment within the smart contract. By default, smart contract does not have the capability to either accept, receive, hold, or transfer any ethers. That feasibility is not there. But the moment you get started by using a payable keyword, right, automatically it will enable all of those transactions also to occur within the smart contract. That is actually the significance of a payable keyword which is available for us. Okay, so in this way, we will have the product ID, the description, title, seller address, buyer address, whether it got delivered, yes or no, in terms of true or false with Boolean, and then the price. Okay, this is how you can define everything within the structure. Then going down, all your products, you can store it in this array. Let me say you have only one product, then that's okay. But if you have a list of products, let me say you have a list of products like 100 products or 200 products which you want to select, then all of those products will be stored within this array which is present in the line number 16, where all your product details will be stored within this particular array. Okay, so if there are multiple products, line number 16 is going to accommodate it, so that it can store all your products whatever you have. And then you see these three things. What is an event in Solidity? Event means it is like a notification. Now, when you use Facebook or something like WhatsApp or Instagram, right, you get a notification when something happens. Immediately, like you will be able to look into that information if you are interested in that. So in the same way, event is also like a notification. Like whenever if you want to know certain things, you can trigger an event where it will give you a notification if something has happened over there. Let me say I said event registered. That means when the product is registered, a notification should trigger to me saying that what is the title of the product and what is the product ID. At the same time, if somebody buys it, event bought, then what is the product ID which is been bought and what is the address of the buyer who has purchased it? That also should be triggered. And then I've taken an event delivery just to know that whether the product is delivered or not. If the product is delivered, it will trigger a notification with me saying that what product ID has been delivered. So event is nothing but just to trigger a notification so that I will be aware that whether these things have been done or not. Okay. So the syntax for this is event name, whatever you want to highlight, and then whatever parameters you want, you can pass those parameters within this. Okay, so if you see, there are parameters available within it. You can pass these parameters like title, product ID. If you want to know who has bought it, like the product ID which has been sold and the buyer address. In the same way, whether it got delivered or not. Like this, what I'm trying to say you is you have the event, you can be able to trigger the event, and then you can be able to get to know that what is exactly happening. Okay, now what is going to happen? Seller is going to register the product, for which we have a function available here. So what is going to happen? Seller first need to register that product in that online cart. Otherwise, buyer will not be able to see it. So there is a function to register where buyer will be like where the seller will be able to add the title of the product, description of the product, the price of the product, and then this function is public. So here there is a require. Require means mandatory condition. Require means mandatorily that condition has to be fulfilled in Solidity. Otherwise, you cannot be able to proceed. So my required condition is whatever product is getting registered. Okay. Whatever the products which you want to go ahead and try to register, right? For which require condition in this case is mandatory. Let me say you are registering the product and you put a price as negative or you put a price as 0, then what is the point in having that product? So I'm putting a condition saying that whatever product you are registering, the price should always be greater than 0. Otherwise, it will not allow you, and it will say that the price cannot be less than equal to 0. It will throw you the error message. Let me say I want to register a product. That product worth is 20 rupees. Then that's okay because the price is greater than 0. So I can do that. But I'm putting the value as 0 or minus 20, minus 1, minus 6. Then it will not allow me and it will say price cannot be less than equal to 0. Due to which I kept a required condition where it has to mandatorily get fulfilled. That only it will take you to the next line, or else it will stop you in the line number 23 itself. And then I am taking the product details, title of the product, description, price of the product, and then seller address to which the money will be paid. Okay, product will be automatically counted as and when the products will be registered. See here, counter plus plus. It will increment as and when you are adding the products. That means as and when you are registering the products, automatically the increment of the product is going to happen. Like let me say there are 10 products. You're adding one by one. The incremental count will be taken into consideration, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. The increment will be happening. And then if you see here, this emit is nothing but, I would just try to say you over here, this emit whatever is present. This emit here is nothing but the event which you passed. See here you only have defined the event. You did not declare that event anywhere. You just defined it. Now I'm trying to declare that event, saying that whenever you want to declare the event in Solidity, you always need to say emit. You cannot say event. Okay. Event you can define it, but when you want to trigger that event, or when you want to run that event, or when you want to declare the event, all mean the same, then you have to say in this case exclusively emit. Okay, you have to say here emit, and then you also have here in this case registered same event name. Then you are saying that give the title and the product ID the moment anything got registered. The moment if anything gets registered, then go ahead and make sure that register function works, and it will be able to give you the title and the product ID. Okay, that will be like a notification which will be triggered to us. This is how a seller can be able to go ahead and try to register. Now, whatever the green color ones you see here, right? These are your comments. Comments will not be executed. Comments are there just to understand, so that in future, whenever I want to refer, this comments will be helpful for me. Comments are not executable. You will just be able to see what data is available over there. Like just you can write it for your understanding by starting with 2 forward slashes. That is how you can write a comment in the program. So now moving to another option here, that's a buy function. Now there will be a buyer, let me say, who is interested to buy a product. Then the buyer will go with a buy function by using the product ID. If the buyer is interested in any of the product, the buyer will be able to put the product ID. Okay, and then the buyer can be able to buy that product. Okay, because as the buyer is buying the product, that is paying the amount. So for which payable is required. Okay, and then I kept two required conditions here. One required condition is, let me say, the seller himself should not be able to buy it. If the seller himself is registering the product and if the seller himself is purchasing, then where is the business happening here then? So I kept a required condition in the line number 37 saying that the seller cannot be able to buy on its own. Okay, and then another required condition is, until and unless the money is not paid, the product will not be transferred. If somebody is trying to buy it, then definitely the money should be transferred. Otherwise, you cannot be able to take it further. Then automatically from the product list, one product will be subtracted, because if there are 10 products and one of them are being sold out to someone, then 10 minus 1 will become 9. So you will have only the 9 products left. So there will be a decrement of the product because one is getting sold away with the unique product ID. So that is what is going to happen. And then immediately again you have a emit where the event will be triggered and we will be able to get to know with what product ID has been sold and to whom it has been sold. That also we will be able to get to know from here. Using the buy function, we can be able to know the parameters that who has actually bought this particular product. So basically in the buy function, what we are trying to do over here is we are making sure, okay, we are actually trying to make sure that nobody is actually coming and trying to take away the product, for which I kept a required condition saying that seller himself should not be able to buy, first condition. Second condition is definitely the payment should be done. Then accordingly, you will be able to see that whether the product is being transferred or not. Okay, so once the payment is done, then from the product list, you will see one product being deducted because it's been sold to someone else. And then event will be triggered where you will get to know who has purchased the product, what is the product ID. And then the final function, if you see here, is delivered. So here what I'm trying to know is whether the product is delivered to the end user or not. That means the buyer. Okay, so you will track that with your product ID, that whether it got delivered or not. So now what will happen over here is, let me say if the product is delivered successfully, it will say true. If the product is not delivered successfully, then it will say false. Now this is something like an offline delivery. Somebody has said a cash on delivery, COD. So what is going to happen over here? First, the product will be delivered where it is a true condition. Then from that product list, one product will be removed and immediately there will be a transfer of money happening. Once the transfer is done, then automatically you will get a notification saying that what product got delivered with the product ID. So it is like mostly like a COD, cash on delivery, where you will say first to get the product. Once the product comes to you, once it gets delivered, then immediately you'll transfer the money, where the money will be transferred into the seller's account using the smart contract, and then immediately seller will get a notification that what product ID has been delivered. Like let me say if the delivery is not done, then automatically the payment will also not be done and the seller will be able to find out that with the delivery agent to see why the product has not been sold till now. Okay, even though it's been a lot of time. So like this, you can track it in the delivered function, that whether the product has been delivered appropriately or not, you will be able to see those results over here. Okay, so overall, if you see, these are the things which we should be able to consider. So this is to give you a high level overview. Okay, so see, some of you may have a very basic understanding of solidity. Some of you may have a very high level advanced understanding of solidity. But what I'm saying you is I'm just giving you a reference of one particular program. Okay, now if the people are not having much programming towards solidity and all, you can be able to take some tutorials, which is available and can be able to have a look into it. But this is the very basic thing. In Solidity, this is how every code looks like where you will first put a range of versions in which you want to compile your code. You can take a contract name. You can be able to start the counter from 1, take a structure. Within the structure, you can be able to define all the parameters like your product ID, description, title, the seller address, the buyer address, whether the product is delivered or not, what is the price of the product, all of these things. Okay. And then these products all will be listed within this array. And then we have taken the events, because whenever you want to trigger a notification, event will be helpful, because even when the event gets triggered, right, it will be easier for us in order to find out the details. Okay, because when the notification comes, it will be much easier rather than always manually going and trying to find out. Okay. And then we have a register function where you can be able to register by putting a condition that the price cannot be equal to 0 or less than 0. So as a seller, you have to register the product with all the details. Once the registration is done, the event will be declared to a seller, that with what title and the product ID, whether everything is appropriate or not. And the person who is going to buy the product will have to make sure that there is a condition. The seller himself should not be able to buy it. And then the seller should be able to, so the buyer should be able to transfer the money. Then from the product list, one product will be deducted and that will be sold to the person who is interested to buy it. And immediately the event will be triggered and you'll get to know the product ID and then the address. That's how you can actually be able to identify it, the buy function. And then you also have a function to deliver it. Okay. So if you want to have a cash on delivery, then first what you will do, once the product delivery gets true, automatically the money will be transferred into the seller's account and seller will be able to get a notification with what product ID has been sold or has been delivered to the other user. Okay, that is the overall overview of this entire code which was available with us. Okay, this is the understanding which you all should be able to have with regards to the code. So now there may be one question to you, maybe if you are doing now, or maybe if you want to do it later. Okay, this code is not little, I would say it is a colorful in my case. In some of your cases, the code may be fully white. You don't have any such colors like a green or a purple, like these things you will not be able to find out. Why? Because I'll let you know. The reason is towards the left hand side, if you see, right, just go one by one: Explorer, search, source control, run and debug, extensions. Click on extensions. Okay, and try to get Solidity from here. The moment you say in the search Solidity, here is the Solidity, just install it. In my case, I already have it. In your case, you have to install the Solidity. The moment you install the Solidity in the Visual Studio Code itself, it may take like less than a minute. The moment you install the Solidity extension, go back to your File Explorer again. Okay, so here is where you will see all your code very attractive. Okay, because extension is mandatory over here. Okay, so if you get that confusion, so you can get rid of it by coming to extensions, making sure that you're installing the Solidity from here, so that things will look better and you can be able to see all the information appropriately. Okay, so this is the understanding which you all should be able to have with regards to code development. So till now, what did we do? We have set up our project. Okay, in the Visual Studio Code by running the truffle initialization and everything. Now we understood how to develop the code. Okay, we have gone through the entire code, like how it is being arranged. So the remaining steps which are available for us is to compile the code and then to deploy the code. So before I go with compiling and deploying my code, let me see if there are any questions from any one of you. And then accordingly, I will move to how to compile the code and then how to deploy the code, which are the final 2 steps available in the truffle. Okay. Okay, thank you, Dhandru. See, the payment method, Abhishek, you have to integrate that with API. If you want, that payment method, like let us say payment gateway, like a Razor Pay, Bill Desk, those are the APIs. You have to use those API as a medium, and then only you can make them to come into the picture. Okay, so that you can be able to use. Who offers saying the Solidity tutorials? There are so many. I would say, let me say, in what do we call this? YouTube, right? In YouTube itself, there are so many tutorials available, Prasad. You can also go through those fundamentals. There is a Solidity documentation also available, where you all can also be able to go through that part also. Okay. I use memory where product. See, memory means it is a see. For example, you would have found only memory over here. Okay. So let me take you here. Memory is nothing but whenever within the function you're passing the parameters. Okay, only the parameter. Within the function, when you're defining a function, right? Within the function, you'll pass the parameters. Now, these parameters are getting stored in the system memory. That is in your system RAM. In the system memory, this will get stored. So that is the reason we have exclusively mentioned over here memory. But you may ask me then, why didn't we mention it for unsigned integer? Unsigned integer by default, it will take memory. Whereas for string, you have to explicitly mention it as a memory so that these title, description, whatever parameter you will pass, that will be stored in the system memory. That is in your local RAM. So this string title and then the string description, okay, whatever is present price, these parameters will be stored in your system memory. That is in your system RAM is what we are trying to refer to. Okay, that is the significance of the memory keyword. And this memory keyword will always be present for your function parameters only, not for anywhere else. Okay. To integrate APIs, you have this Postman, SOAP UI, so that is altogether a different thing. Okay, we have a tools. If you want to take it further, we have a tools like SOAP UI, we have a tools like a Postman, we have a tool like a Google Advanced REST client. Using that, we will be able to integrate the APIs, Abhishek. Okay. So now, as our code is available to us, okay, as our code is available for us right now, what I will do right now is let's go and try to compile the code. Let me put my terminal also to the top little bit. Okay. So now what I will do is to compile the code, I will just say truffle space compile. That's it. Now this will go ahead and try to compile the code for me. When I say truffle compile, so this will be able to go ahead and try to compile my code, whatever is available. See, my compilation is done successfully. See, compiled successfully. Okay. Whenever your compilation is done successfully, right? Okay. Do you know this thing that when you compile the code, what is that will be the output? Was it taught anywhere in the course? If you compile your code, what will be the output? Let me say right now I've done a compile, truffle space compile, right? I was able to compile my code successfully. That's what I was able to do right now. So can you say me what will be the end result? I compiled, that is successful, but what is that I'm going to get from the compilation? If you know, that's okay. If you don't know, I'll explain to you. Yes, absolutely right answer. Okay, it is no compilation is actually about the bytecode only. That is 100% right. Okay, deployment is where you will be able to see it in the blockchain. When you deploy your code, then it will be there in the blockchain. But when you compile your code, what will happen is your entire Solidity code will be converted into machine code, into machine language, I would be able to say specifically. It will be converted totally into a machine language. Okay, that is specifically bytecode, I will say. So if you want to see the bytecode, because my compilation is successful, that means I need to see that bytecode where it is present, right? So if you go to the build at the top, see, the moment you compile saying truffle space compile, okay, let me also try to put that command over here. Okay. Oh, sorry, I have sent it to, let me just put that command over here. Okay, truffle compile. So using this truffle compile command, what did I do? I was able to go ahead, okay, and then try to compile my project successfully. Okay, once the compilation is done, at the top you have a build folder created. See, towards the left hand side, there is a build folder which is being created. If I click on this build folder, here is my card.json, and here is your ABI. You will get two things. Once you compile the code, you will get the ABI, which is your application binary interface, where your Solidity code will be converted into JSON, JavaScript object notation. One is ABI, another one is you can do Control F to search the bytecode where it is. Okay, so you have your bytecode available. See, this is my bytecode. Okay, your entire code got converted into a bytecode in the form of a hexadecimal pattern. It is available where you can be able to look into the information. Okay, that is how you can be able to get a bytecode and ABI details within your build folder. Within your build folder, you have your card.json, and within this, you have your bytecode also been available for you. This is the process which you all should be able to understand with truffle compile. Okay, very simple. Just say truffle space compile, the code will be compiled, and in the build folder, you will get this JSON where you will have ABI, and then will you have the bytecode. Bytecode is already, you are aware, where your code will be converted into machine language, and then ABI is nothing but your entire code will be converted into JSON. Just to give you an information, that's it. Now the final step, that is to deploy your code. Now to deploy your code, okay, here, if you want to deploy your code right in truffle, we basically call it as the migrate. Okay, so what did we do after initializing the truffle? We were able to develop the smart contract. Okay, so development of smart contract was done, which is online cart, where we understood everything. After this is done, what did we do? Then we went ahead and said truffle compile to compile the code. So once we compile, we got a build folder where you have your ABI and your bytecode. This is where till here we were able to do it. So the next one, what I'm going to do right now is, as we are already done till this truffle compile, the last one is deployment. If you want to deploy, you have to say it as migrate. Okay, in truffle we call it as migrate. Okay, so the command for this will be truffle migrate. But if you run this command directly, then it will fail. Okay, so simply for truffle compilation, what did we do? Truffle space compile, and we were able to execute the compilation process. But for migration, that is nothing but the deployment. But for this, you cannot do it like that. For this, there is a process. Let me try to explain to you. Here, there is a migrations folder, right? Whenever you want to deploy the code, you also need to create a new file in the migrations, starting with number 1. The file name is cart, and I will say migration.js. It will be in the form of a JavaScript. Okay. So now, okay, let me click on enter. See, in the migrations, I have created a migration file. Okay, because migration, without providing the migration file, you cannot be able to migrate. When I say migrate, it doesn't mean like we are doing something different. It is deployment. Okay, but here we are calling it as the migration. Only thing is that you should understand here. Okay, so now what I will do here in this case. Okay, so if you observe over here, let me take this part and put it in this case. See, what happens over here in this case is I am saying that this is always standard. This will never change. Okay, whenever you want to deploy, this will always remain constant. What I'm saying here in this case, I am saying I'm referring this to my contract name. This is my contract name. Sorry, this is my file name. Okay, I'm taking my file name, and then here require is my contract name. So I am saying that this is my file name, and I want to make sure that my contract name is also required to me over here. And then I'm taking a function to deploy it. Here, this is my function to deploy it. And then finally, it is going to deploy the file whatever I created. So what I'm saying simply is this will always be a standard one. Okay. This is always going to be a standard one, which we should be able to consider. Okay, so now here in this case, what we are trying to do in over here is we are trying to take this cart. Okay, so now what is this cart? This is my contract name, and I also have my file name. Only thing you have to replace, let me say if I'm taking another program, which is not cart, which is let me say like mathematics, math. Then you will replace here instead of cart, you will put everywhere math. The logic will remain the same, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so whenever you go ahead and try to migrate it, right, simply make sure that you always provide this as a standard syntax. Otherwise, you cannot be able to migrate it. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm just saying that I require my contract name, I require my file name, which needs to be deployed. So now I will go and just say the command truffle space migrate and say enter. Now this should be able to go ahead and try to deploy. Okay, my compilation is already done. See, now my deploying my program, see, it's done. Total deployment is 1, which I was able to deploy my program, that is a cart program, and the cost which it has taken. If you remember, what did I say? If you want to deploy your contract, it will take some amount of ethers for the deployment. And you observe here, the final cost it is showing you, the gas concept which we discussed in the morning session, right? The same thing. The gas cost is available over here, if you observe. This is the gas fee which it is going to take, okay, in order to deploy the code successfully. And then finally, if I take you to the Ganesh, because we are connected to Ganesh, right? See, my balance became 99.97 because just now I've deployed my program. And if you go to the block, see, one block is created. If you see here, there is one block which got created successfully. Click on this block. See, contract got created. Contract creation, see the timestamp. Today's date, and then the time is 2:12:28 seconds. Okay, this is when just now I have deployed it. How much gas it was able to use. This gas got converted and it fetched us amount 0.025 around these many ethers. And here is your block hash. And whatever the code you have deployed, it will be shown in the form of a byte code. Okay, whatever the code you were able to deploy within the block, okay, within the blockchain, it will be present in the form of a byte code, so that if anybody gets access to this block, they will not be able to see your code directly, because as everything here is in the form of encrypted, right? No one can see your code directly. So even if anyone wishes to have a look into it, and if they get the block details, everything will be present here in the form of a byte code, so that they will not get to know what exactly is your code. Okay, so this is how within the Ganesh, you see that the block got created. Finally, your smart contract, whatever online cart was being created, right? That is being present within this block. Okay, within this block, you see that all of them got created appropriately. Contract creation is done, and you see that everything is available over here. And then as per my explanation, I've shown you that the gas fee would be deducted, and this is the final cost. So this is the overall exercise of what we have scheduled for our today's second session. Okay, so now with this, what we were able to achieve is we understood that using the truffle and using the Ganesh as a test network, we were able to go and create a contract called as the cart.sol. We understood this solidity code altogether, whatever is being taken into consideration over here. And then we were able to go ahead and compile the code where we got a build folder. Within this, we were able to look for our bytecode and then the ABI. And after this compile is done, we went to the migrations. Within the migration, we were able to take a standard syntax by referring to our file name and the contract name. And then we were able to say in the terminal truffle migrate. where it was able to deploy the code successfully. Once the deployment was successfully done, okay, so you have seen that at the bottom, it is just letting you know over here, okay, like how much cost it was able to take. It was giving the all of that information. So we were also able to see those things. Okay. So whatever the compilation has been done, and then the rest of the things. So, and then how much cost it was able to take, and then from the Ganache also we were able to refer to it. Okay. So if I just little bit scroll it down, here is the cost. Where is the cost? Yeah, total cost. Okay, how much it took. And then if I take you to the Ganache platform, okay, in the blocks, you see block one is created and you see contract got created, the timestamp, the block hash, and the data. That is nothing but your code is being present in the form of the bytecode that is in an encrypted pattern. Okay, and then see here some balance got deducted. Anyhow, it is a test ethers only. If it is a real ether, you will get the real ether being burnt. If it is a test ether, you will not feel that impact because all of these are test ethers at the end of the day. Okay, so this is the understanding which you all should actually be able to know with regards to practicality of how to create a dApp. Okay, so now whatever we discussed is all with regards to the backend development, because as a blockchain developer you will also be able to do the things in the backend only. Okay, so if you see within the command prompt, I was able to first create a directory online cart. I went to Visual Studio Code. I opened that folder. After opening that folder, I went and said in the terminal truffle init, so that I got a structure, a framework with the contracts, migrations, test folder, config. Then I was focusing on the development of my smart contract, which is regarding online cart. After that, I went ahead and compiled my smart contract using the truffle compile, where in the build folder, I got ABI and the bytecode. And finally, in the migrate folder, I was able to create another file, mentioned about the file name and the contract name. The moment I said truffle migrate, I was able to migrate or deploy my contract into the Ganache platform. In the Ganache, I was able to see that gas or ethers being deducted because of the deployment what I have done. And accordingly, I was also able to see block creation being done where my smart contract details were being added. So this was the final exercise which I want to let you all know. So now if there are any questions, you can please feel free to ask me, but this is what I want to explain to all of you. Okay, the morning session, we understood it theoretically. Afternoon session, right now, we have completed the practicality of it, like how you can use the tools, how you can be able to develop a code, how to, first of all, how to create a project, how to develop a code, how to compile the code, and then finally, how to deploy the. This was the overall understanding. I've given you the steps also in my whiteboard, and then I was able to do the things. I was able to resolve the issues in between. So this was what we were able to achieve. So what I'm saying is, see, within 4 hours, nobody will become the masters. You and me, all of us know about it. So what I'm saying is, I've given you what is required. Now it's up to you how much you want to take it for. Okay, I've given you the theoretical exposure. I've given you the practical exposure. It's up to you that how you want to take this journey altogether. That is an important aspect you all have to consider. And I would just let every one of you know that keep exploring, keep learning. Okay, internet is very vast. There are a lot of things which are available over there. So I've given you from where you need to get started with. I also went up to more than an intermediate level so that you all can get to know in a better way. Now it's up to you that how you will be able to take this journey. Okay. So if there are any questions, you can please feel free to ask those questions so that I'll try to resolve those questions, and then I will be handing it over to the ma'am. Okay. Fine. So if real ethers depleted, how to replenish them? Is it like transferring to a bank account? No, you will have a wallet accounts. Okay, you will have a wallet accounts. So what is going to happen is the wallet account, whatever is available, that in that wallet account, you will be able to get a chance. So from that wallet account, you can be able to get the ethers into your account. It's not a bank account. You have a wallet like MetaMask. You have a wallet like separately for cryptocurrencies. We have a what do we call Coinbase. Okay, ZepPay. Like this, there are wallets being there. From there, you will get the ethers. Okay. A code I'll be sharing it to like ma'am, and then she will be sharing it to all of you. Okay. Because here it cannot be accommodating such a huge code. So I will share the code to them. They will be able to provide it to you. Okay. Apart from Postman, okay, we have what do we call this? SOAP UI, SOAP, SOAP UI. And we also have this ARC, Google Advanced REST Client. Those are the things, Nitu Sharma. Truffle is a framework. Using the Truffle framework, Abhishek, we are trying to create a framework. We are trying to compile. We are also trying to deploy. That Truffle as a framework is helping us out in compiling the code, deploying the code, and then ensuring that creating the project and everything is done appropriately. That's the significance of the Truffle. Yeah, you want to know how to open the bytecode? See here. Again, I'll try to explain. The moment you are done with that compilation, Truffle compile, you'll see a build folder created towards the left-hand side. Go to build folder, go to this cart.json, okay, and then here Control F. Control F means search bar over here. Here, just put the bytecode. It will just go and search where the bytecode is there. If you don't want, you can go manually and can also check. That's okay. See, bytecode. Here is the bytecode which is available for you. That is what I have explained it. Okay. Okay, so I don't see any more questions from anyone. I have answered all the questions which are being available. Hope that the second part of the session was also been interesting to all of you. Okay, so thank you once again for all your active participation and listening to me very actively. Okay, all the best for the remaining sessions also. Keep learning as much as you can and get the best out of this technology. It's a very good opportunity for all of you to go ahead and get to learn a lot of things. So utilize this time, get the best from all the speakers, and you at the end of the day, you all should be benefited from this entire course, whatever is happening. Okay. Thank you once again and have a great day and all the best for your futures. And bye-bye and take care. So over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, please continue.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am, please continue. I thought you are not there.
You please continue, Neelam. It was such a wonderful session that everybody, I'm sure that people have really been benefited. And this gives an exposure to, it's a broad exposure to the blockchain technology. Yes, please. Neelam, would you like to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, I also wanted to thank Mr. Prashant. Thank you so much for such wonderful session. Obviously, in the morning also, participants were quite excited with your session. And in this session, obviously, you have provided some hands-on to in the blockchain domain. So definitely, it would have benefited the participants. So thank you so much for this session.